We have this for colleagues that couldn't join us today, but would like to follow along. So that is great. I'll go ahead and do this. Lovely. And just a quick hello and welcome this afternoon to this discussion and briefing about the opportunities for ocean acidification commitments at the upcoming Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa in June. And for those of you that I have not met, my name is Jessie. I'm the director of something called the International Alliance to Combat Ocean Acidification, which is what it sounds like, an alliance of partners, both governments as well as non-governments around the world working to connect science on ocean acidification to meaningful policy landscapes domestically and also internationally, including entities like the UNFCCC Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UN Sustainable Development Goal Agenda, but also domestic policies having to do with climate change, having to do with marine management, fisheries, food security, food economies. And so that's really the work that we've been up to for the last several years. And for this agenda, I'm actually going to take you through a little bit of the history of how ocean acidification has been showing up in the Our Ocean Conference as a fora. And then I will look forward to turning it over to colleagues, including remarks from Dr. Orina, who is the Director General and CEO of Kimfiri, or the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, to share a little bit of informal thinking, I suppose, about opportunities for elevating ocean acidification into this Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa. From there, we're going to have a short presentation from Dr. George Rashinisha, who is going to share us a little bit more about the state of ocean acidification work in the Western Indian Ocean. And I will then maybe reflect a little bit of the opportunities that we might have for supporting that regional plan before having remarks from colleagues on the line with us, including Dr. Arthur Tuda, who is the director of WIOMSA, as well as Ms. Lisa, uh, uh, Karanja, who is Ocean and Climate Policy Officer at IOC UNESCO Africa. I know that we do have some other colleagues on the phone, potentially from other governments. Welcome, Mauritius, possibly Seychelles. And so it would be wonderful to leave time as well to hear remarks or interventions from your perspective. All right. And my sound is coming through okay. I assume so. Is that a thumbs up, Ruben? Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I've prepared a few slides. I don't want to keep anyone waiting too long for remarks, but I just thought it would be useful to have a little bit of framing around how ocean acidification has actually shown up in our ocean conferences in the past. And this is a little bit centered, of course, on the OA Alliance because we have been one of the main entities speaking about ocean acidification in the Our Ocean Conference context. But I think it will be useful to show that there has been, in fact, quite a history of this topic, and there's great foundation to now build on as we go into the Our Ocean Conference in Mombasa in June. So, just a quick overview of the history of this topic in these spaces. Um, the first ever Our Ocean Conference was in 2014, and ocean acidification did show up on the agenda. It was raised as a major issue where we had scientists and policy leaders making sure that when we were talking about climate change, this is including the issue of ocean acidification. There were briefing documents for policymakers, and this was communicated sort of in the hallways to make sure this wasn't left out of the agenda of our ocean conference. Then at the third Our Ocean Conference in Washington, D.C., that's where we launched the OA Alliance. And so it was the West Coast states of North America, actually, at the time, back in 2016, 10 years ago. But it was a wonderful opportunity to highlight this topic. And that's where we formed this coalition, bringing on more governments to think about this issue in context to their climate change, marine management, and sustainable development goal agendas. Then, at the third Our Ocean Conference, which took place in Malta in the European Union, the OA Alliance actually hosted our first ever ministerial meeting where we released the OA Action Plan Toolkit. And we sort of shared out these options for how governments might take domestic action on this topic. And it was a wonderful opportunity to have our very first ministerial. We had about, I don't know, 7 to 9 ministers in the room speaking about this issue and its importance in their policymaking. Then at the seventh Our Ocean Conference, which was in Palau in 2022, where there were many commitments around ocean acidification. The first was to create 10 new OA action plans so that the OA Alliance was going to commit to supporting governments, both national as well as subnational, in creating this policy framework for addressing ocean acidification. We said we were going to support more national governments in seeking climate ocean financing through entities like Global Environment Facility or the Green Climate Fund, which is largely related to the UNFCCC, but also through things like development banks or UN environment programs or even philanthropy, and making sure that more national governments were being supported in this work on the financing side. And also that ocean acidification needed to be more deeply embedded in mechanisms of the UNFCCC across mitigation, adaptation, financing, that we had sustainable development goals on climate, on ocean, that those needed to reflect acidification policy a bit more. And finally, that we were going to be part of this UN Decade of Ocean Science program around ocean acidification research for response and management. So in 2022, we had a great deal of commitment making around how the Alliance was going to continue supporting governments in this work. Here we are in Panama. We have been able to speak at many of the conferences around this topic in the climate change panel, which has been great. We were also able in Panama to host our second ministerial and partner meeting around acidification. And this is again where we reiterated and had a conversation with our colleagues. What is needed to advance acidification leadership internationally, particularly at the UNFCCC and across the Sustainable Development Goal agenda? How do we get financing at regional scales for this work? And what's needed to support OA action planning and preparedness domestically? And here was the conversation that emerged from this dialogue where we really talked about the need for regional investments in monitoring and coastal information. And of course, that's what we'll talk about today in the context of the Western Indian Ocean. We talked about inventory of relevant policies and management mechanisms. So what are the most relevant policies across the Western Indian Ocean that can be taken up in response to ocean acidification trends and apply ocean acidification science in response? How do we prioritize highly vulnerable sectors or resources, particularly thinking about seafood? How do we make sure that we're prioritizing research for the context of seafood security and sustainability? And then finally, how do we finance this plan for implementing this work at a regional scale? And so those were all the great conversations that we were able to have in Panama at the Our Ocean Conference. And here's just a quick picture of our second members and partners meeting, where we had a couple more European countries, I would say, probably take up this work. And here we are having this conversation together about the international and domestic frameworks for addressing ocean acidification. And then last but not least, 2 years ago at the Our Ocean Conference in Greece, in Athens, we were able to launch the National OA Action Planning Leadership Circle. And so this is a program where we invite national governments to join the OA Alliance and to make commitments to domestic ocean acidification policy. And so here we are launching the Leadership Circle. We do have pretty globally diverse representation, increasingly from Latin America and the Caribbean, colleagues from Mexico, from Chile, from Colombia, from Peru, also colleagues from the Pacific Islands region, including Samoa, Fiji, New Zealand, Palau. And we have been working increasingly now with WIOMSA on the ocean acidification work and understanding what the status is of the ocean acidification work happening in the Western Indian Ocean region, and would very much like to invite Western Indian Ocean governments and other governments across Africa to join the leadership circle and begin to engage with colleagues about this topic of ocean acidification policy. So this is really just a quick speed date, I suppose, of the history of ocean acidification at the Our Ocean Conference. As you can see, there is a very long history of ocean acidification showing up in this space. And so I think it really sets the scene to have a meaningful conversation in Kenya at the Mombasa conference, very particularly about this issue in the Western Indian Ocean. What is the state of the science? Where are we in regional OA action planning? And how now can we bring in ministries, bring in financing, bring in groups like regional seas conventions, IOC UNESCO to really move this work forward and make the regional investment for this work to become more robust and as useful as possible for ministries in the region. So, with that, I just wanted to say thank you for coming, and I will turn it over now to, of course, to Dr. Orina. Thank you so much for being here, CEO and Director General of the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute in Kimthiri. So, over to you, Dr. Orina, just to give us your reflections, perhaps, on the issue of acidification and how it might show up and how you might promote this issue showing up in the Our Ocean Conference this June.
Thank you, Jesse. My name is actually Dr. James. I'm going to speak on behalf of Dr. Paul Orina, who's away on official duty. He gives his apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. Yes, apologies, James. Over to you.
Okay, no problem. So on behalf of the Kenyan government, I warmly welcome you to this important webinar, and we thank you, Jesse, for organizing this. We are grateful that you have taken time to join us today, and everybody else, we thank you to share your perspectives on ocean acidification. Across the continent, the ocean is a source of economic opportunity, food security, and biodiversity. Actually, the African fisheries represent 7% of global fishery and aquaculture and provides nutrition to at least 200 million people. Ocean acidification, we know, causes coral reef destruction, disrupts food webs, impairs fish sensory behaviors, hence threatening biodiversities and economies dependent on fisheries. This critical emergency requires urgent action and mitigation strategies. It is a great honor and privilege for Kenya to host the 11th Our Ocean Conference from the 16th to 18th of June in Mombasa under the theme Our Ocean, Our Heritage, Our Future. This will be the first time our Ocean Conference is held on African soil, and it will shine a global spotlight on the leadership, challenges, and opportunities of African coastal and island nations. The conference will be preceded by academic and research symposia on 14th to 15th of June 2026. Since inception, in 2014, our Ocean Conference has emerged as a premier platform for announcing voluntary commitments, mobilizing finance, and forging coalitions for ocean action. To date, past conferences have garnered thousands of commitments worth over $100 billion US, advancing marine protected areas, sustainable fisheries, actions against plastic pollution, ocean climate solutions, and ocean science technology. In 2026, Kenya intends to build on this legacy and bring a distinctly African community-centered dimension to our ocean agenda. Our focus will be on turning promises into implementation, moving from dialogue to delivery. Hosting the conference in Mombasa at the heart of the Swahili Coast will allow delegates to see firsthand the marine and coastal ecosystems, cultural heritage, blue economy enterprises that underpin our theme, our ocean, our heritage, and our future. Our Ocean Conference is proven mechanism for mobilizing concrete, actionable commitments to ocean climate action from government, funders, and civil society. Under Kenya's leadership, we will continue this legacy of success and turn global attention towards ocean climate action. Kenya's policy and commitment objectives are promote inclusive, sustainable blue economy that creates good jobs, generates sustainable income, catalyze ocean finance, empower and elevate young ocean leaders, strengthen collaborations to combat illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, advance marine conservation and restoration efforts that deliver on GBF and 30 by 30 goals. If we are to meet the goals we have set for ourselves by 2030, we must keep up the momentum and we must deliver on our commitments. I wish to assure you that Kenya has put in place robust systems, coordination mechanisms, and partnerships to offer the best our ocean conference experience ever. Well organized and inclusive. To stay connected to the lead up to our Ocean Conference 11, we encourage you to follow our Ocean Kenya host country platform, www.ouroceankenya.com, for regular updates and highlights. We look forward to welcome you to Mombasa, Kenya for the 11th Our Ocean Conference. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if I may add, Jesse,
Please.
for what is being done about our ocean acidification, we have our scientist, Dr. Joseph Kamau, who is going to talk about what research work is being done by Kemfree or Kenya regarding ocean acidification, if given a spot. Thanks.
Yes, of course, of course. Well, thank you so much, James, for that overview. It's a wonderful welcome from the government, and we're very grateful for the engagement and for the willingness to include ocean acidification as part of this really important conference, and very much hope that it is aligned with, of course, the goals of the Kenyan presidency, including a focus on blue economies, financial investment, conservation, and those are all, of course, the sectors that we know ocean acidification research and science can be most applicable towards. So it's really wonderful to have you on behalf of Dr. Arena. Apologies for my mistake. And it's great to have the government's participation in this conversation. Wonderful. And as far as Dr. Joseph, I think what we will do is I will include you, Joseph, in the little dialogue after we hear the next presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. So next presentation, I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of the overview of the work that has been happening in the Western Indian Ocean, very specifically under the context of a regional ocean acidification action plan. This is an action plan that was created because of work that the WIOMSA and the Western Indian Ocean Science Association was leading that has now turned into an OA action plan that has now been uplifted into the Nairobi Convention. So George, do you mind if I offer you to share screen if you have slides? Do you have slides to share?
No, I don't have slides, but I wish to provide my remarks with the
Perfect.
subject.
That's even, yeah, great. Over to you. So I'll over to you, George, to give us the overview of the work in the Western Indian Ocean, and then I will call on you, Joseph, and then Arthur to add anything that you would like. But go ahead, George.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Rushingisha George. I work with Tanzania Fisheries Research Institute, and the institute has been part of the regional efforts to monitor ocean acidification, which started, I think, in 2019, with the support from WIOMSA. And before I proceed, I would like to acknowledge some members from the regional OA working group. I saw Sean Porter. I saw some colleague from Kemfree. WIOMSA is also represented, but also many of you were reviewers in the development of the regional OA action plan. And to start with, as I think I'm building from what James presented in terms of the impacts of OA in the region and beyond, I think over time it is now becoming clear that the impacts are happening. So with that, I think it was in 2019 where WIOMSA, with some funding, decided to form a regional, I would say, OA working group. And they provided funding for 6 countries to pilot on OA monitoring. And Tafiri was one of them, but also I know Kenya, Kemfree was there, and other countries like South Africa, but also Mozambique. And as Jesse said, that efforts led to the generation of the information that provided some, I would say, baseline information to the extent of the issue within the region, but also highlighting some opportunities where we can venture in to improve the situation in the region. So coming now to the OA action plan, I think it began by reviewing the key challenges that were persistent in the WIO region, and I think I identified 6 key challenges that formed the basis for the development of the action plan. One of the big challenges is the inadequate research and capacity for OA monitoring in the region. We thank WIOMSA started the efforts, but the truth is that some country couldn't afford continue with the OA monitoring after completion of the project. And the other challenge is public awareness of OA and its impact. So most of the decision makers, some even haven't heard of the terminology. So you can see already if you want to navigate in terms of taking action against the challenge, so that was seen as one of the barriers. But also limited understanding of OA impacts. Of course, some observations have been conducted, and such information is still considered that in terms of understanding is not enough. And you can see some countries even don't have, or they have not conducted any sort of observation, but also other countries are ahead, like South Africa. I think they have conducted a lot of experimental studies, and this provides, I would say, kind of a room where if local scientists can collaborate to address the situation in the region. But another challenge that we saw is the looking on the existing policies, climate change policies. There was little integration of OA into such existing policies. So like now, we are insisting that governments should provide support on addressing this matter. So I think integration of OA into existing policies is necessary. And another challenge, as I mentioned, is the lack of dedicated funding to address the issue. Some funders have been, yes, they tried. One of them is IUCN, WIOMSA, through WIOMSA. And you can see now out of the 6 countries that were targeted to start with the monitoring of OA, only a few countries are capable as of now. Tanzania is inclusive. I heard also about Kenya. I think we maybe wish to provide a chance and hear what are they doing. And the last but not least challenge which was identified is the lack of coordination. You can see countries, some of countries are addressing the issue, but they are working in silos. So I think there was a need to develop a coordination mechanism to address this challenge. So because of those challenges that were identified, then the Nairobi Convention decided to develop an action plan, of which I was part of the experts who led the process. And this action plan identified 6, I would say, strategic priorities. It's a document which is online, and most of you have gone through and also got time to review it. And just to mention, one of the measures targeted on climate protection measures, where this year I think is kind of policy focused, where it insisted yes, main issues that or action that can help to reduce or to mitigate climate change. But another strategic priority was on advancing understanding of ocean acidification and its impact, where issues of ocean acidification monitoring, experimentation, social assessing the socio-economic impacts and the building capacity were seen as important while implementing such a strategic action. And the third strategic priority was reducing the airborne and the waterborne pollution, where pollution control measures are highly insisted. Then the fourth strategic priority is on building resilience and adaptation for affected communities. We are all aware that some of the fishing communities, like in Tanzania and beyond, are highly impacted by the rising, by the increasing ocean acidification, and therefore building awareness and the implementation of adaptation measures was considered important. The fifth strategic priority is on mainstreaming resilience and adaptation measures into existing climate change policies. And the last but not least is on enhancing collaboration and partnership. As you can see, countries are at different stages. Some of them, they are beginners, others, they are at advanced stages. So it was seen important, like if we enhance collaboration and partnership can help to address the impacts. And of course, not to forget about sustainable financing for the implementation of the action plan. So I think my role was just to share with you the action plan, and moving operationalization of the action plan within the region now becomes, I think, the topic that I wish we discuss from now moving forward. Thank you, Jesse. I think I've provided a snapshot of the action plan.
Indeed, that is so fantastic. Thank you so much, George. That is a great overview of the work that you have been part of leading along with so many colleagues on this call, including obviously Dr. Tuda under the umbrella of WIOMSA. I think that you've outlined exactly perfectly the opportunity, really what the components, components of, let's see, ask for mutes. Oh, thank you. What the components of the regional OA action plan are. So just to reiterate what you mentioned is one, to continue to address the limited understanding of OA impacts with targeted and coordinated monitoring and research, thinking about that integration of acidification into existing policies as a key component of that action plan. Obviously, addressing the lack of funding and trying to continue to support the science and research that is going to support that integration of acidification into policy, but also with the focus on the mitigation and adaptation strategies that are being explored through the plan. And then, of course, finally, the coordination and the collaboration that is required not just across the 6 countries, but also with research institutes, also with regional seas conventions or other bodies, and NGO communities like IUCN. This is all so critical and so beautifully captured in the roadmap that is the Regional OA Action Plan. One thing now that I just want to quickly share is a little bit of, I would say, food for thought of how some of these actors can take up commitments at the Our Ocean Conference. And then I'm going to open the floor first to you, Dr. Tuda, to give us your reflections on that, what you would like to see coming from the Our Ocean Conference. And then over to you, Lisa, to speak a little bit about your perspective from IOC UNESCO. From there, we'll open the floor. I would like to invite governments on the line first, if you'd like to reflect on the conversation, and then, of course, some of our research partners that are here as well. So just as a quick picking up on this food for thought, how do we start to operationalize the implementation? Just as you said, George, that's where we need to be going. So obviously what we need to be getting is commitments from ministries, in this case across the Western Indian Ocean, to support implementation of the Regional OA Action Plan. This means updates to national policies to ensure that acidification is represented in mainstream climate, blue economy, sustainable development goals, and that it's ready for taking in that acidification research and science that's happening in the region. This could be accomplished, joining the leadership circle. We work on that topic globally, so that is an invitation of commitment, but the real commitment is making sure that that there is an awareness and investment to support implementation of that regional OA action plan. And again, we through the Alliance can help support some of those conversations through things like the National OA Action Planning Leadership Circle. Importantly, seeing more commitments from groups like UNESCO, Environment Program, regional seas conventions, including Nairobi, and I would also include here possibly groups like NGO groups that are doing projects in region to integrate and support emerging acidification monitoring and research. Those are the types of engagements and partnerships we should be seeing building out. And also, could bodies like UNESCO, Environment Program, Regional Seas Conventions, NGOs be supporting communications and outreach to government? As we know, that's always a useful partner in that communications piece. And then the most important thing, the funding commitment. Who is it? National governments? Is it philanthropies? IUCN obviously has made commitments in the past. How do we start to fund these different components and these different commitments in the Western Indian Ocean to support implementation? So these are the things that we should be thinking about now as we go into the Our Ocean Conference, so that we are ready as a community to have some commitments to this work from these actors. With that, I want to turn it over to you, Dr. Tuda. I would love your perspective, I suppose, on this question. You have been leading this work at WIOMSA. What does WIOMSA need? What type of commitments would you like to see? And how do you think the Our Ocean Conference can be a good place for this type of commitment making?
All right, thanks, JC. Hope you can hear me clearly. Just show me a thumbs up if you can.
Yes.
Oh, great. All right. Thanks. And nice to see everybody. Thank you for organizing this meeting. So just a bit of background before I get to the OOC. So where did we start from as a region? So a few years ago, if you recall, if you asked anybody from the WIO region about ocean acidification, most would say, yes, we know about it. It's happening globally. But what does it mean for a region? So that is a question that we asked ourselves some 7, 8 years ago. But the honest answer would be, we really don't know. So not much was known. There was little data, as we all know, from our waters. And we had a lot of good science on coral reefs, mangroves, fisheries, other coastal systems. But when it came to ocean acidification, the region was lacking what I would call a global picture. Okay. And so in 2018, WIOMSA and regional partners, we asked a simple question: where do we begin? And so we worked together with partners, including a couple of universities, University of Dar es Salaam, Tafiri, Kemfree, MOI in Mauritius Oceanographic Institute, I think Eduardo Mondlane, and or in South Africa. So these were the pioneers of OA monitoring in the region, the scientists and the research institutions. So they began this monitoring program, and we started collecting data on temperature, pH, and other factors. And so the picture began to emerge slowly, where we were as a region. And, the message was clear that ocean acidification is not a future problem, but it's something that was part of our ocean. So then that is how we got to where we are. And, the monitoring also revealed a number of things. I'm sure many of you have read the OA Regional Ocean Report, but it also showed the uneven capacity across the region. Some countries had research programs, others did not have. Some didn't even have basic equipment, lab equipment. Others had nothing. Data was scattered. Monitoring was also not well coordinated. So these are all things that we've seen. And then the program changed now from, it was no longer about monitoring, but then what can we do together as a region to respond together? So I think that is what led to the Ocean Acidification Action Plan. So I'm just giving the background of the plan, how it started. And so we now have a WIO Regional Ocean Acidification Plan 2025-2035. So if we look back on the journey, we first asked ourselves, well, what is happening? Then we started measuring. Then we have a bit of understanding now. And now we have a regional plan. So the question you're asking is, where do we go from here? Okay, so all those have been success stories that I think we need to remember. So how do you go from here? One of the things that I would like to point out is that, when the funding stopped, the monitoring stopped. So that's an important thing. So there was a great effort that we put from 2018 up to 2022 to our Marine Science for Management program. But then, of course, everybody knows what's going on, the funding challenges. Nobody wants to fund science anymore. So how do we deal with that? How do we keep monitoring? And so that, for me, is a big question that we need to take to the OOC. Can governments commit to supporting the institutions, Kemfree, MOI, to continue monitoring ocean acidification? Because WIOMSA can only provide limited resources, and we cannot be able to sustain OA monitoring as we would wish to. So we could use small grants here and there. Tanzania have been doing a great job, thanks to IUCN, and they've continued monitoring OA in Tanzania and Tanga. We'd like to see more partners coming on board, also to support science, because the demands for research are great. I must confess, WIOMSA is overwhelmed because we are supporting all forms of research, not just OA, fisheries, coral reefs. And so the limited resources cannot begin to sustain a proper OA monitoring program, which we started. So can we go back and ask ourselves, what do we do as a region? Okay, so for me, that would be the first priority, even before we talk about what actions do we take. The actions we can take are as good as the knowledge that we have. So when the knowledge stops flowing in, then our actions will be basically guesswork. We don't want government to guess what action to take. We want those actions to be informed by good science. So for me, that would be the message as WIOMSA that I would like to take. And of course, lastly, is that OA impacts are already being witnessed, like in the case studies that we've had with Tafiri in Tanga. So how much of that knowledge is going into marine spatial planning? I witnessed one example of a marine spatial plan that was being developed in the region, and there's absolutely nothing about OA and climate. So the question is, are we going to keep talking about the science and not being part of the conversation of policy. So we must see as how to be part of that policy discussion. The policy must not just be left to policymakers. How do we engage as scientists in policy making? So for me, the message at OOC would be two simple things. One, continue with the science. It's needed for ocean acidification because things change every time on very short time frames. So we need consistent monitoring. Our institutions of science need to be supported continuously. And secondly, the policy must be involve all of us as scientists. So we must find a way of us participating actively in policy. I mean, developing national frameworks of biodiversity conservation. Where is OAA in all that? MSP, where is OAA in all that? Setting up 30 by 30 protected areas. Where is OAA on that? So AO is missing in all these policy fronts. So that is the message I would like to pass and strengthen at the OOC. Thank you, Jesse.
Wonderful as always. Arthur, thank you so much for that overview. Very clear call to action, investing in the science and integrating and engaging in the policy. And I think what people don't always understand, and you've just articulated it beautifully, is that we don't need our own policy on ocean acidification necessarily. We need all of these existing management tools, all of these existing goals to include and incorporate this acidification work so that they can be better applied for better decision making into the future. And so I think that's a very salient and clear message. We're short on time, so I'm just going to move us along. I did want to invite Lisa to reflect a little bit, Lisa Karanja, for our IOC UNESCO Africa. I know that you've been thinking a little bit, well, you've been thinking a lot about the ocean climate nexus, of course, in the context of science, but also policy. Lisa, anything that you'd like to add or reflect to on this conversation about what you would like to see more of, or calling either colleagues from UNESCO to, or calling others in the region to think about the coordinated investment and what can be advanced in the context of this opportunity at our ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jesse, and thanks for the invite, and lovely to see so many people on this briefing call. I think it's a great sort of reflection of where our minds are at and how we're sort of shifting to really understand how important this is. So maybe before I continue, just wanted to make sure that you can hear me. If you can, just great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think in terms of where we stand as IOC Africa, of course, first of all, we would love to, of course, just give a bit of, or rather a lot of congratulations and really thank WIO for the work that they've been doing in the region. I think it's been very instrumental, and just really seeing, even if it's not on a continental level, just seeing this region come together and start, of course, the monitoring, start looking at what is acidification looking like in terms of Africa? What is it looking like in terms of the WIO region? How are we seeing the impacts affecting different communities, affecting different ecosystems and that kind of thing, which is really, I think, what we need to see in Africa. And this is really speaking quite broadly, is that, there's a lot of emerging issues, and I feel like every year there's another emerging issue. And we are spread quite thin in terms of capacity, in terms of resources, but that doesn't go to say that we cannot build our capacity and mobilize the resources. I think sometimes we're a bit slow to catch up to different policies or different initiatives that are going on, and really building that momentum, I think, is quite crucial. What the WIO has already done in the region, I think, is great, because it gives us a proof of concept, to show that ocean acidification is not something that's happening in different areas of the world. It's something that's affecting Africa as well. It's something that we need to start looking at, and we need to start implementing and really monitoring on a very consistent basis. In terms of IOC Africa, this is, of course, something very, very important to us. We are the custodians of the SDG 14.3, and that means that we are also in charge of basically reporting to the SDGs and making sure that in terms of SDG 14.3 and its related indicator 14.3.1, which is more on basically marine pH and ocean acidification, we need to make sure that we are reporting on that constantly. we have seen a bit of a lull in terms of the African continent, in terms of how they're reporting on ocean acidification and marine pH, in the sense that we really haven't seen that much data in years past. However, I think this has really seen a bit more of a change in recent years. We've seen more of our member states approaching us and telling us, we really want to focus a bit more on ocean climate action. We want to understand how climate is affecting our oceans, affecting our communities, affecting our ecosystems, affecting the economy as well. And I think that's a great entry point, just to be able to say that our member states are very, very interested in seeing this proceeding. And so now it's a matter of how do we make sure it actually does go forward. I think I'd just like to reiterate or just echo what Dr. Tuda has mentioned, is that we are only as good as the information that we get, right? And so not seeing a lot of acidification in terms of our policies really, for me, is something that can be affected, or rather can be answered in two ways. Number one, we don't have enough data, which is true. We have started monitoring. We need to continue. We need to make sure that is sustainable and continuous. But the other thing I think is in terms of the capacity, right? And this goes in two ways. We're talking about both human institutional capacity, but we're also talking about partnerships, right? Ocean acidification monitoring is something that we need to be able to really show our policymakers why it's important for them to consider. Why do you need to add these aspects in your MSPs, in your SOPs, in any of your national policies? When you're looking at the recently launched Blue Economy strategy that Kenya did, I know a lot of African countries are also trying to institutionalize that within their countries and have their own national perspectives. And so we need to be able to communicate why we think acidification is something that should be considered. And to do that, we need the data. We need to show them that, because of acidification, you're losing this much money, and this is why you should include it in your blue economy policy. Or because of acidification, these are the different ways that your communities are being affected. And so you need to consider that as you're thinking about your adaptation strategies. When you're thinking about mitigation, a lot of countries like to reference that our different ecosystems across the coast are responsible for, sort of capturing a lot of carbon. And so we need to say that if you are requiring or depending on these ecosystems to mitigate the effects of climate change by carbon sequestration, then we need you to know that acidification is going to limit that going forward. And so really the numbers you're putting across may not be realistic, but that requires a lot of resources, both in terms of capacity. Do we have scientists, researchers that are knowledgeable on these aspects, on how to continue the monitoring? Do we have the financing? And I think that's something that we really do want to focus on, both at the OOC and moving forward. And I think there are different ways to approach that. Definitely, I don't have the answer. I wish I did. That would be perfect. But I think a good start would be bringing together different partners. We have a lot of fragmentation, which sometimes can sort of limit how much we're able to get done. Because I think if we do have a clear picture, and because something has already been done in the WIO region, we can understand exactly how much resource would go into a year of monitoring, for example. What kind of stations do we need? What kind of capacity? So can we sort of package that to see how it fits into already existing programs? And that would require a lot of partnership, right? Bringing together different actors and saying, hey, IOC may have this kind of a program that's going on along the maybe Kenyan, Mauritius coast. Can we include an aspect of monitoring in that, in something that's already existing going forward? As we think of how do we structure this a bit more sustainably as its own thing moving forward. So can we replicate what WIO has done, what has happened in the WIO region, and really build a capacity across the continent? Can we have a continental-wide strategy? So these are kind of the things that we're thinking about, and also trying to think about in our case in IOC Africa, as we really do want to have a bit more data on acidification across the continent and really have a lot more African representation in terms of that SDG 14.3. And so, yeah, of course, this is also us just saying we're definitely interested and we want to see how we can partner and think through this a bit more concretely, especially as we move forward towards the OOC. So I hope that answers your question, Jessie, and I've tried to throw in a couple of other things in there, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure to be more engaged in working with you and IOC UNESCO. And I think that the just as you described, that acidification is increasingly just thought of as part of existing projects that are going to be happening, of course, across the region, but of course, across the continent. And that is one thing that we think a lot about. Early days when we were trying to reach out to GCF to say, you should care about acidification, it's very squarely within your portfolio of mandate. How do we, and of course, it's not that we need $1 billion for all things ocean acidification. But when you are doing a really big blue economy project, or when you're doing a really big conservation project or fisheries resilience project, money for acidification research and inclusion should be part of that. And so those are the types of things that we're trying to socialize a bit more. So I think you've spoken about that opportunity for integration in a different way quite nicely. I know we only have a couple more minutes. I'm very guilty of always running a little bit past, but this has been a really wonderful primer, and I think gives us a lot of foundation to work from. I want to give an opportunity for governments that might be on the line with us. I will call your names if you would like to speak. I know that I think we have partners, Dr. Faku and Manisha from Mauritius with us, as well as Dorothy and Noah from Kenya. Would either of the government participants like to say anything in response to this conversation or ask any questions? Oh no, then I don't see full hands. So great. Well, then I will also open it up to any other questions or interventions that people would like to offer. Lena, over to you. And I suppose you should, yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I know some of you, not all. Nice to see you. And thank you so much for those presentations. That was really, really, really good. I am Lena Hansen. I'm with the International Atomic Energy Agency and the Ocean Acidification International Coordination Center. I'm online with my colleague Courtney today, and we also I just wanted to highlight something that I don't think came up, but I might have missed it. But that we have also, as part of the Global Ocean Acidification Observing Network, a specific hub focused on Africa, the Ocean Acidification Africa Hub, and some of you are part of that. And I just wanted to remind that we do have that bottom-up kind of African leadership through the hub and the Global Ocean Acidification Network as well. And as part of that, a few organisms, so the IEA and also the Ocean Foundation, have been also quite active in bringing some equipment to the region and some training. And we are, I wanted also to state that we are actively kind of looking to continue to do so. So we would very much like to, how do you say, confirm our, commitment to the region, and make sure that we work together and support these efforts as we can. So that was quick, and I don't have much time. Jesse, thanks.
No, thank you, Lena. Anthony, I see you really quickly. Any other governments that would like to offer something or ask questions?
Yes, Jesse, thank you so much for the opportunity. I mean, this is quite interesting and very, very needed for the continent. I just want to say that there's need for also to bring this kind of activity. I mean, ocean acidification policy work in the Western African hemisphere, in the Gulf of Guinea as well. We've been pushing to commence advocacy work around this issue, and I think we're still very much interested in working on this issue and bringing this mainstreaming OA in policies in the Western African sub-region and the Gulf of Guinea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony. I think that's definitely the goal, right? Thinking about how does the Western Indian Ocean model, having Nairobi Convention so engaged, are there other ways that we can start thinking about the other regional seas conventions in the North and the West Coast to be, involved and engage partners like OA Africa, which is operating more northern in the Mediterranean, and then of course a Gulf of Guinea ocean acidification community of actors that I know is increasing their activities. So I think that is definitely the bigger picture, and it's awesome to engage with colleagues like IOC to think of that bigger continental picture as we go. Bernice, over to you. Welcome. Nice to have you.
Thanks very much, and thanks to the speakers. Thanks for the invitation to participate in the webinar. It's been very useful. Just because you've been speaking about sort of other continental actors, I think what will be useful also is to do an exercise of how this can be, let's say, not aligned with or aligned with, but also contribute to the implementation of some of the AU policy frameworks, because that will then enable the countries to easily come together, both at the regional level, so the regional economic communities, and then also at the continental level. And whatever sort of, responses or regional responses or continental responses can then automatically be fed into the implementation of those policy frameworks. So the exercise would be to look at the existing continental frameworks like the climate change strategy, the blue economy strategy. I think there's an ocean strategy as well. And just see whether there are particular aspects of those that the actions that are proposed can speak to support the member states to implement those. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bernice. That's wonderful feedback, and we have been, Reuven, I'm looking at you without looking at you, but that's we have definitely been thinking about engaging with the African Union Commission and have done a piecemeal kind of work on that, and trying to think more holistically about making sure this work is integrated into things like the 2063 agenda, and other relevant blue economy climate plans. So it's excellent prompt for us to think about those partners as critical to this discussion, for sure. Great. Well, Joseph, I didn't get to you. I think I was wanting to make sure that we had a time for questions or reactions to this larger picture, but anything that you want to say, Dr. Joseph Kamau with Kimfree, for the good of the order. I suppose you're invited if you want to have any last minute remarks or thoughts on this conversation. And certainly not required. Okay.
Hey, Jesse, can I have a... Yeah, can I just join a conversation here, right?
Please.
Do you hear me? Yeah,
yes,
okay. Yeah, I'm just, because I'm the co-chair of OA Africa, and we've been discussing with our colleagues, Nero Sharaut from co-chair of North Africa, and Petrolate from West Africa as well. And we have a steering committee where we're trying to build build capacity for OA research and training within the region. And I was part of the OA Africa funding from the Ocean Foundation, IUC, UNESCO, and WAMSA as well. And the project we carried out lasted till 2022. Then afterwards, we partnered, with the Mauritius Oceanographic Institute, because we are based at the University of Mauritius, me and my colleague Kishore Boudou. And we managed to get a PhD student working under Higher Education Commission funding to carry out research work in ocean acidification, especially on the chemical components. And obviously, this is something which has been ongoing since 2022. And in 2026, we have the student who's already preparing his thesis, and he's already published one paper, and the second paper coming out on ISAMI sensors as well. So we managed to get two sensors. One was from the Ocean Foundation, where we had two centers, one at the MOI and one at the US Mauritius, where we had some training being done under IAEA funding, and where we managed to bring in African scientists. Then afterwards, we had Professor Dixon and Professor Sam Dupont as well coming to do capacity building, even Chris Sabine from Hawaii attending to have hands-on experience on these sensors. So the next step would be to build the biological component. And at the moment, me and my colleague Kishore Budi at the university, we are working towards building this capacity. And I also worked with George on the Ocean Action Plan. I mean, I had a review on this as well. So more or less, this is what is missing probably, because I had, as co-chair, presented to the Nairobi Convention a joint paper with all the regional stakeholders working together and what would be the next step. So that's quite a crucial moment at this stage, because WAMSA is in the picture. We are trying to see, I mean, probably we have to give this full support, because at the moment we are trying to build some kind of center of excellence at the University of Mauritius, where we can create international partnerships with other colleagues as well, because I was in Cambridge some time back working on one on workshop, and my colleague Kishore was in Mombasa as well, attending the last WAMSA conference with colleagues from the region. So obviously the question is, we stopped in 2022 and still data missing. I mean, there are gaps which we have identified, but that would be the next step. How do we get the partners to fund even for another regional project, probably? But these are things, because at the moment we are trying to build capacity within ourselves. We brought it at the Nairobi Convention, and this is trickling down, because Mauritius or even different ministries, they are involved with, I mean, I had government officials attending Nairobi Convention with my colleague, with Kishore Budi, trying with George when he had this workshop. So these are things that have to be followed up. And this is something which is basically all the countries are party to the Nairobi Convention. So this is something which has to be implemented in the government, because MSP, OA, and all these things have to be included within the research in the future. That's my comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Roshan, and it's amazing to see that kind of detail work continuing. I know it's very, I don't know because I don't do it, but watching all of the scientists that are, just pushing through with very limited support and resources to continue to build that time series, to continue to build out that biological information. It's a big ask that we are putting on your shoulders, and so I think that's really maybe the last sentiment that I'll leave everybody with, is that we do recognize that there needs to be a bigger investment in this work, that there is a very good amount of coordination that is already happening in different scales of frameworks, and that we really now need to make that big push for that policy uptake and awareness and people understanding what this work is good for. We need to be reaching out to ministries now in advance of the Our Ocean Conference and using that as a moment to bring them into this understanding. And we really need to be working at that bigger picture funding so that we can start supporting the individual research institutions, as Arthur mentioned, as well as regional projects that could be under WIOMSA or elsewhere. So just to say thank you all so much for joining. I think our next steps through the Alliance, Reuven and I will be putting our heads together, and we'll probably be doing a lot of emails. We'll probably be doing a lot of outreach. If you're a government, you will probably hear from us about any follow-up conversations about questions you have, or opportunities to be a little bit more involved. And then we will likely be trying to organize colleagues from the African Union, from some of the funding NGOs, maybe even from other governments, to see what they might be interested in having discussions around. My instinct is that we will try to have an in-person conversation in Mombasa, so that maybe we could find a side meeting space in the conference area or nearby and organize a discussion, Lisa, maybe along the lines of what you were describing, is how do we chart out the types of partners that we need to be having in this bigger picture conversation. And it is my deep hope that we will be able to find some funding support not too long from now to really continue to keep this work going and, of course, to keep reaching into that policy integration. So, all to say, a big thank you. It's amazing to see the support and the momentum in this particular, I guess, region on this topic. And of course, knowing that we have other continental partners involved. So, more soon. Thank you so much and really appreciate your time and attention to this. And happy afternoon.